Up to the conversation.
It's okay. So, Will, just whole upshot of this is honestly my dream is to work in some sort of. Actually, I was trying to get into a couple years ago. I was researching getting into the. There's a program. It's not a master's program, but it's a certification program at the New School for new media. And so I was looking into that, and just I would honestly just love to live in New York, and work somewhere in pop culture media. Honestly, don't care what it is, as long as it pays my bills and I can live in a somewhat decent apartment.
I mean, do you want to live alone?
Ideally, but I honestly don't care. If it allows me to live and work there, it's all good to me.
Yeah. Okay, so would you want to work like at the Daily Show, or like anything like
honestly,
Jimmy Fallon?
Those would be my dream jobs. Would be like if I could work for the Daily Show, John Oliver, Samantha Bee, those type, because I lean progressive. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
But it's just it. But honestly, I would.
I'm out.
Bye.
I lean progressive, so those are the people that I would love to work for. And I like to lean more to the comedy side, but I love the research part of it. I mean, I'm a historian, but I would love to work for honestly anybody.
No, for your history though, like what did you concentrate in something particular that your degree is in?
It was kind of a cross of pop culture, genealogy, and organizational genealogy instead of like family tree type stuff. I looked at organizational hierarchy. So like I did a organizational history of like my fraternity house. Like that. I always loved the concept of pop culture genealogy, where you can like who has worked with who and who's influenced who. Like you can look at like the great guitarists of all time and see how they all trace back to like Robert Johnson.
Have you ever reached out to like Dan Harmon, who created Community and Rick and Morty?
No, the most recent person I reached out to was the guy who
he says that so casually, like it's like
I know,
something
like
anybody
like he's
does.
ever gonna like. I usually reach out to John Oliver about once a month on Twitter, but I never get responses.
Okay.
And like Dan Harmon's ever gonna read my tweet with my 300 followers or whatever. But
you never know.
Exactly. The last person I reached out to was Dan Merle, who used to be on Screen Junkies, and he just went off to form his own channel. And so I was like, I'll be one of your researchers, and because I'm great with ideas, I'm horrible with like editorial execution. Right? If I had an editor or somebody that like directed me to go do something, I would get it done. Great work, no problem. And I have great ideas, but I am horrible at like having the idea and then making sure myself I do it for like over the course of, you know what I mean? So if I could give somebody an idea and then they direct me on how to do it, that would be awesome. Or I can research like nobody's business.
Okay. I'm just my gears are turning.
Yeah. Well,
can we talk about this Dan Harmon thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about
casually? Have you ever reached out to Dan Harmon? I mean,
dude,
might as well just like have you talked to Greg Daniels? I mean, come on, why don't you just reach out to Seth MacFarlane? I mean, come on, he's just right there.
Talk to Will for an hour and you'll be like, wait, what? And like,
so Will here's the thing. 1L probably does know Dan and has met Dan. 2, when are we gonna go right for Community the movie? That's all I want to know, Will.
Well, I know that they are.
Are they really trying to do a movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've heard rumors that they've been getting together in secret.
We're in tail end of season 2 right now. Me and Kate. So I love it.
You like it?
Oh, it's great. It's brilliant.
I should send Will 1L some of my writing.
Send Will 1L whatever. He'll do.
Yeah, send me your stuff.
I used to.
Good guy. Told you.
Actually, most of my writing, if you go to wordpress.com/Will Griggs, I am Will Griggs. That's most of my writing up there, academic and I think it's I am Will Griggs. Let me double check that.
All right. So
yes, send me the link.
While you guys are doing that, we usually talk about what we're drinking. Anybody drink anything good? You can just say whatever, it doesn't matter. But
do you want to do the intro first?
No, yeah. I'm just filling them in on how this goes. I know Will
Okay,
listens, but Nick's only been on this a couple times, and I don't know what he's drinking. You got an adult beverage tonight, my friend?
Got some Popeyes Coke.
All right.
Nice. Mixed in with tequila.
Yeah, throw something in there. Where's that Kraken?
With some Crown. No, okay.
Oh, I could go with some Kraken right now.
Right.
We normally don't drink in this house.
Right.
Quarantine made life a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear
Kraken
that.
tastes like Comic-Con to me.
That's what I was telling Nick when he said he had Kraken in his house. I was like, oh, you're making me want to go back to, making me think of Comic-Con, man, which is all very sad. Since
To be honest with you, when you take just a shot, I can't tell the difference between whiskey and rum. Like, it's all the same.
Rum's sweet though, usually sugary.
But once you start mixing it with stuff, though, that's when the flavors really come out. And I'm like, yes. Like, I've had a pina colada like 4 times this week.
Well, all 4 of us were supposed to be in San Diego, by the way. So
Yep.
Oh, I never agreed to that.
yeah, you did. You just didn't know you were going.
Well, we could still go.
Shit.
Might not be any Comic-Con.
Yeah, we could still go and pretend.
All right. Well, I put a couple links in the chat. The first one is mostly my academic and published stuff, and then the second one is like my unpublished, just personal writings.
All right. Awesome. I'll check it out. And then I can have like John or Dan look at it. Whatever you'd like.
The funny thing is, Will,
Sure.
he's actually serious,
And I'm
Yeah.
flabbergasted.
which is insane. But
I mean, I've done Seth MacFarlane's men's grooming a lot, all last year actually.
I love it.
I just love how I was just like throwing away comments.
He worked on SNL for like 5 years.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My last show officially was the Betty White show when she was on.
Oh, really? I love Betty
I
White.
know. She was just on Community too,
yeah.
as the beginning of season 2 with the anthropology teacher.
They're so funny.
That made me so happy, dude. I just saw the D&D episode a couple nights ago too. By the way.
Is that not the
amazing?
greatest?
That was great.
Yeah, she's great. She has when she did SNL, she was 88, and when I tell you the energy and life that she gives, literally everyone in the cast was like, I can't keep up with her. Like, she was so quick-witted, she had so much energy, and she was amazing. Just amazing.
Oh man, and I'm bummed we had to cancel that New York trip. Will offered to take me out to see some cool shit up in New York, but
I know one of my good friends, she had spring break planned to go to New York, and she'd never been, and she's a total musical theater geek, which I am too. I love musical theater. And she had bought like 6 tickets. So she was going to go see 6 shows in like 5 days. Couple matinees in there, and
she had to cancel all that. Huh?
Yeah, then coronavirus happened, and all of a sudden it just all got automatically refunded.
Crazy.
And she was all bummed because she was going to be going to see Dear Evan Hansen and Jagged Little Pill, and like I'm so jealous because I want to see all those shows.
Oh, Jagged Little Pill would be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do this and then we can continue chatting if you want?
Are we live on Twitch yet?
Oh, we've been live for 5 minutes now at least.
I'm pretty.
You look great, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
You do look great. It's that straightened beard.
So
it just does something about it for me.
It's really you're really killing it. So the one thing I'm gonna ask you guys, since you'll probably all end up on the same track, is just minimize fidgeting and weird sounds that you're doing. Well, I'm not saying you can't draw. I'm just saying don't scratch really heavily.
Nope. It's me doing it. Sorry. It's usually Nick.
It's usually Nick.
No, it's not. It is never me.
It is totally you.
No, if you want to hear something horrible, you got to go back to the first couple episodes of The Usual.
Oh, don't
because
ever do that.
The first couple episodes, I was actually living in my RV, parked in my fraternity house's parking lot, recording through iPod headphones with parties going on outside. The
brutal.
sound on my end was horrible.
And that was before I could like actually take
It was before
sound
we had a
out
soundboard
and deal with stuff, and so that was kind of brutal. But anyway, don't ever go back to those episodes.
Hey, what I'm hearing is I can still do some writing.
What I'm saying is, don't look the things you're notorious for.
Tell me.
I'm not even.
Apparently, I don't know.
I've told you before.
Opening a soda can.
Usually fidgeting with some beverage of some sort. Usually I hear ice.
I
something.
love my ice.
I know.
Ice, baby.
Or
too
like,
cold,
and
too cold.
anyway.
Go ninja, go ninja, go, go, go ninja, go ninja, go, go.
Anyway, it's gonna be a shit show, but it's gonna be fine. You guys are great. I'm glad you're all here.
Okay.
It'll make my day, bring my day up a bit. It's been a weird day.
What are we talking about?
I sent you an outline, so
Yeah.
Do you have the outline up, Nick?
you know he doesn't. Come on.
He does.
No, I do.
He's just playing with you.
How else did I get to the Zoom meeting? Come on.
Dude, it's like talking
He hasn't
to,
scrolled down. He opened it and hasn't scrolled down.
Dude, Marshall, why am I drawing a blank on the guys from Austin who never had an outline?
Oh, Bad
Just
Feeling
keep
podcast.
writing?
No, Bad Feeling podcast.
Oh, Bad Feeling podcast. We used to have this ongoing grudge, not grudge, going on with another podcast that they never
In
had
the
an
Soul
outline.
Tour
We
community.
always had an outline. It was hilarious.
And then they give little jabs about not having an outline, like just directed at us. It was pretty funny. All right, let's go. Ready?
Ready.
Hello and welcome to episode 164 of the Usual Podcast, the podcast where we discuss all things geek and pop culture. I'm your host Marshall, and with me again, thankfully, is my co-host Will. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's up, everybody?
Bonus this week, we have two guests with us. Those of you that follow my podcastingness know these voices already, but I'm going to introduce you. It is Mr. Nick Bright and Will Rouston. Welcome, boys. How we doing?
Hey,
Great.
no complaints on my end, other than apparently I rattle my ice.
Well, dude.
Except for I'm just finally noticing what the hell is up with the cat behind you.
Oh, that's a good story
I
too.
don't- You know what? He's really into Hello Kitty. He has a little bit of a fetish for Hello Kitty. He has Hello Kitty underwear that he wears when he writes because it really gets him in the mood to really write his science fiction book.
Okay, well, two things. One, who doesn't? I mean, I'm wearing my
For real.
I'm wearing my Hello Kitty panties right now.
I thought we were all supposed to.
I mean,
Wait,
Two,
it's a group
is
effort.
Is it just me, or did everyone else like freak out when Sanrio came out and said that Hello Kitty is actually not a cat?
What? What is this?
I was
happened?
rather upset about that.
This came out a few years ago that Sanrio came out and said that Hello Kitty is not actually a cat.
Why is it called Hello Kitty? That makes no sense.
why do we call strippers kitty? It's just a good stage name sometimes.
Anyway,
mine is cinnamon.
Gross. I'm just trying to figure out where the Hello Kitty's at.
it was behind you on
Because
your screen.
it was
dude.
behind you on your screen.
We're looking at your
'Cause-
room behind you.
This?
Other
Yeah.
side,
No, your monitor.
your monitor,
Hello
the
Kitty
giant screen on your wall.
And then I went to Glow. Now it looks like Luke Cage.
Oh, Luke Cage. Keep
Hello
that
Kitty
on.
was there a minute ago.
Mike Coulter is awesome.
Yeah.
We'll just
Yeah,
let
Mike Coulter's
Netflix run
hot.
some ads, you know?
Well, one time Nick actually kept Into the Spider-Verse running at a very low volume, and I didn't find out till I went to edit it. But that's on a different episode of a different show, and I guess we'll stop giving Nick shit. So
Hey,
we're
I've
just
already
sitting here, as always, enjoying our usual frosty beverages. I'm gonna start with our guest, Nick. What are you drinking? Since we gave you a hard time already.
I don't win any points, but I'm drinking a Coke with a little bit of Crown.
Nice. Will, one L.
Speaking of Coke, really quick, another Griggs family connection. Coke was kind of founded by a guy named Asa Griggs Chandler. Sorry, go ahead.
Was
lot of
he a
history,
relative of yours?
Yeah, a different branch of the family that came over from England. They went directly to Georgia, but yeah,
You are like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
kind of. The funny thing is when you get really deep into genealogy, everybody is that way, but just nobody has done the research to find their cool stories. I like to do that.
Wow.
Between Will's connections in showbiz and Will 2L's knowing his history, eventually you guys will find out you're related.
Probably.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, Will 1L, what are you drinking, buddy?
Diet Coke with tequila.
Nice. I had some
Oh.
tequila yesterday. Cinco de Mayo. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good day yesterday.
It was good.
I had
What-
bacon
Yeah.
wrapped hot dogs for Cinco de Mayo, guys.
Yeah, it's all right. You're all right.
I
not gonna
literally
say anything.
eat Mexican food every single day for lunch.
That's amazing.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I know.
Do they have
It
good
just so
Mexican food
happened.
in Utah?
My wife.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Will, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Blue Moon,
Nice.
Belgian white ale.
Not bad.
And I, since everybody's asking, am drinking Sierra Nevada Hot Bullet Double IPA to round out my day. I had a
Love it.
couple of the hazy little thing.
Marshall does not drink beer that is not hoppy. He's a hoppy mess.
Well, that's my thing, dude. So, sorry. Before we get started, if you have comments or questions, you can find us at theusualpodcast.com. Email us at theusualpodcast@gmail.com. And, of course, we're on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and all the things. So like us, share us, and rate us on the socials. And so, before we get into the meat of the show, I'm going to skip some of this other stuff, obviously, Will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I even wrote it in there, but it's fine. But before we get to the main part of the show, let's just acknowledge our Patreon patrons who have stuck around amidst all the COVID madness, and our drinking buddies, the people who have been supporting this show for a very long time, and we appreciate you. So thank you for giving us a few bucks an episode to help this bad boy keep going periodically and sporadically.
Hopefully less sporadically now that Marshall's kind of like being able to fit me into his busy schedule.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to just get back to some semblance of a schedule, like pretending I still go to work for chunks of the day and then focusing on my night stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So, real quick, I hope all of you guys are hanging in there with all this stuff. I know we all talk off mic quite a bit, but a lot going on in the world right now. So, take care of your kids, take care of your families, and I'm hope everybody stays happy and healthy best you can, So, all right. Well, I'm going to let you take away the top one here. So, I don't know, gents, our guests, we're going to go down the line here. We don't have a ton of stories in this week. I just want to get you guys in because you guys love pop culture. I want to talk about what we're watching specifically this week, mostly because this is the time where we all have, quote unquote, time to watch stuff that we maybe didn't have time to watch before. And I actually have been doing pretty well for me. So I'm pretty excited about that. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's talk about some news. We'll start at the top. Something with AMC and Universal. I'm going to let Will take this way because this one's hilarious.
Yeah, you got to love it when multinational, multi-billion-dollar conglomerates get like petty shit going on between them, and AMC and Universal are hilarious, right? Because obviously right now AMC is having major issues because nobody can go to movie theaters, right? So I think I read, it wasn't in this article, it was another article, that they have like enough fluid equity to be able to last, I think, until like November without having to form some sort of restructuring bankruptcy. But then Universal decided to try something new this year where they just released Trolls World Tour directly to streaming, right? And at what they called a premium rental price of $20 for the rental instead of going to the theaters, right? And so of course AMC hates this because AMC wants, their cut. Plus, anybody that has ever worked in theaters know that most of the money that theaters make comes from concessions. So if people don't go to movies, they're not buying popcorn and soda and candy and all that fun junk. So Universal said, well, we made $100 million from Trolls World Tour, which is, far less than they would have actually made in the theater. But considering that if they'd released it to theaters, they would have made, I think it's 30% of the total gross, right? Whereas by releasing it straight to streaming, they get like 80% of it.
Well, the problem that Universal did, though, they started kind of touting that they're like, oh, we can just keep doing this, and like, oh, we can just release direct to video or whatever, or direct to streaming, but they didn't really, I don't know, think it through because AMC is mad. Right?
Yeah, but so AMC, so basically Universal said, yeah, we're not going to release most of our stuff to theaters because, we can make a huge profit just by doing it on streaming services. And AMC says, okay, well, we're not going to show anything by Universal. The problem with this is that AMC didn't really think about what Universal was saying, because there's no way Universal is not going to release the Fast and Furious series to theaters, right? It is too huge. I mean, they make over $1 billion just internationally. I mean, it's just ridiculous the amount of money that they make in theaters, and they're not going to get that in streaming. I mean, they'll get a huge chunk of it in streaming, but they're not going to get the massive amount of money that they would by releasing it to theaters. So AMC, I think, is just kind of being petty, but they have like a right to be petty because they're the one that's like bent over the barrel right now.
Well, they're closed and they're ticked off.
Exactly. Right. So, and I read somebody mention this on Twitter. I wish I knew the handle to give them credit, but they basically said that AMC right now is feeling kind of like how Movie Pass was last year.
Yeah.
Right. Where they just don't have the content to be able to give their audience what they need to do, right? And so they're going to just be losing money hand over fist by keeping some people employed and furloughing everybody else, kind of like what's happening with Disney. And I think by the time we finally get through this near the end of the year, they're going to figure out something with being able to get people back into theaters, because people like me, I love the theaters. I'm a total introvert. I've been loving like just being in my apartment for 2 months, but I still love the experience of going to theaters on opening day. I mean, there's a reason why, on my birthday every year, we used to go to the Star Wars movie every single year.
Well, and that's my question kind of to the rest of the group too, is what do you guys think about, first of all, how do you feel about movies going straight to streaming instead of going to the theater? Do you have the same attachment that Will has to going to the theater? And second, especially Will, with Ralston, if you're in part of this industry too, like how do you feel about what's going on between theaters and production and all that kind of stuff?
So I think we're actually going to see a hybrid moving forward. I really do. I think what's going to happen is they're going to have big premiere nights. Like, so for what I do for like working in production for hair and makeup, like you have the red carpet event. I think they'll still do them in select theaters, and then they'll do video on demand. So there's actually some good things that can actually come of this, because what's happened in American Western, I think, movie theater going is you have these tent poles that make the theaters a lot of money and are in most of the theaters. But what has been lost are these really great personal independent flicks. So I think by having a hybrid type of situation where you could have these really buzzworthy, unique films be both in theaters and on video on demand, I feel like everyone can win. I think the studios would be a little bit more forthcoming with money to help new filmmakers, get some of that money while still putting their big tentpole in theaters. And I think with Will's point, I don't think we will ever not go to the movie theater. I think a lot of our experience is about a community and laughing with people and sharing a journey with people. That will not go away. And I bet you, even when all of this madness ends with the pandemic, it will come back even stronger, because people want to be around people, even if you're introverted, when you're sharing a journey.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I mean, the tempo ones is kind of what I make a big stinky deal about going to the movie theaters for. Like, I mean, I go to every Marvel movie, every Star Wars movie opening night. There's something about opening night, being with that community, seeing, episode 9, for example, with all my friends, and my kids and my wife that night. It was an amazing experience. Even in my little town, in my little community, and, but it was the Star Wars community within this small community that is the appeal and the draw to that. You know what I mean? I like the hybrid idea. I would love to be able to then turn around the next day and maybe drop a $20 and watch the movie again. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think it's
that I like.
I think it's. I agree with Will that it's going to be a hybrid. I think it's going to be 3 different things though. And we've already kind of been going to these. Anyways, number 1 is the temple idea. I mean, that's honestly been going for 45 years now, ever since Jaws basically came out, and you have these temple ideas, right? And they kind of went the other way with it, where it was like, okay, we're just going to show it on 4 or 5 screens at every multiplex, get every dollar we can. I think we're actually going to start going away from like the 20-30 screen multiplexes, and we're going to be going back to the movie house idea, right? So places like the Alamo Draft House are going to get big again. Pantages is going to get big again. Even in small towns like San Luis Obispo, where you have the Fremont, which is 1,000-seat Art Deco theater from the 40s, right? Which is right now used primarily for live things. Well, not for anything right now, but I think it'll actually go back to being that temple idea, right? And you're going to start getting those, because those are going to be the ones where they're going to release the major films. But I think they're also going to start doing day and date, either day and date with video on demand streaming, or like a week later to give it a week in theaters at the the movie houses, right?
Well, it makes sense to get the weekend box office numbers, stuff like
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
The other way it's been going is the video on demand streaming idea is just going straight to Hulu or straight to Netflix or straight to Amazon, which you already have a huge amount of those smaller budget movies going there. Even movies that are getting awards considerations like Bad Education this year with Hugh Jackman. You had what was the Spanish language film that was up for Best Picture a couple years ago? It was through Netflix. It was black and white.
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't remember it, but
yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I think it started with a B. But anyways, you're already getting movies that are directly released to the major streaming services that are up for awards considerations and have major stars. I mean, you have the whole Star Force movie coming out with Steve Carell, put out by Carell and Greg Daniels. That's going to be coming out here end of the month on Netflix. So you already have those mid to small budget movies going like that. What I think is also going to start happening is more of what Kevin Smith is starting to do, where you take it on the road.
Yeah.
Because back in the 30s and 40s, you already had movies that did that. Because if you remember, the premiere of Gone with the Wind didn't happen in Hollywood. It didn't happen in New York. It happened in Atlanta. And then it premiered in Atlanta for like 3 weeks. And then it went to New York. And then it went to LA. And never premiered in the same city all at the same time. They took it on the road because they had limited prints and wanted to do it in major events. So I think you're going to start getting that with bigger name directors that don't want to do tentpole movies.
And Smith did a really good job with that.
Exactly.
Reboot
Smith has done
Roadshow
a really good with the Reboot Roadshow. I could totally see somebody like Soderbergh doing that. Taking one of his smaller budget movies and just hitting the road with it to like 3 or 4 major cities over the course of 4 or 5 weeks. And just doing a little, I mean, there's no way that you're going to get somebody like Soderbergh doing, like the 6-month roadshow that Kevin Smith did, just because he doesn't have the time to devote to it. But you could easily do a 3 or 4 week thing where you just take it to like New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, or throw in DC or something like that, Chicago. Throw in like 4 or 5 cities where you do it over 4 or 5 weeks, and that's your major release for that mid-market movie, and then you release it to video on demand.
So Nick, what do you think? I know Trolls was probably playing in your house, huh?
I'm one of the very.
Oh, you didn't watch it?
I know I did. Like I as soon as I could, I did order that.
It was a cool flick too.
I actually really enjoyed it myself.
I liked it a lot.
Which I loved the first one.
Yeah, I loved the first one. I haven't seen the second one.
Second one's great. And it's going back to the whole AMC thing. AMC, I think they have rights to 3,000 theaters.
Yeah.
Internationally. I wouldn't care. If they're like, we're not gonna play your movie, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, go to a different theater.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
there
are 3,000 theaters worldwide.
Yeah.
They're a penny amongst dollars, right?
The unfortunate thing for AMC is almost every market that AMC is in, Regal's also in, or Edwards is also in.
Right, that's the problem.
These other major chains are in, and so instead of just going to AMC, let's go to Regal or Edwards. And then it's not going to affect people like us in a tiny town where we're not owned by a major theater chain. We're a local theater chain. They're still going to get the big movies.
Right.
Because there's very few towns where the only theater in there is an AMC. Within driving distance, there's going to be another major chain.
Do you take your kids? Do you take your family to the movies, Nick? Do you guys do the movie thing? Or
we tried. It's just too hard.
Yeah. Well, your kids are young too.
Yeah. I mean, my kids are young. I'd rather do video on demand. I mean, Universal did it right. It was a guinea pig. It was the perfect movie to do it. It's a perfect storm for them. I mean, opening weekend alone, there's reports saying that it made $50 million in opening weekend.
The unfortunate thing for Universal is that they'd already put out so much, like at least $150 million in marketing. Okay, the thing that I think Disney's going to try to do right with the Artemis Fowl movie is they have not put out that marketing budget yet. And so they're releasing it directly to Disney Plus without having to put out the theater marketing. And so they're going to save that $100 to $150 million and just put it directly into streaming and just make pure profit on it.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder though with Artemis Fowl though, is it that they didn't believe in the film?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think they just said, okay, here's a movie we didn't think was going to have long legs in theater or have a major buster at the box office. Let's save the marketing budget, ship it directly to streaming. And I think that's ultimately what they're going to do with New Mutants when they finally figure out what they want to do with the idea of canon.
Right.
Because I think that's the one thing that's holding them back. I mean, the film's done. They've reshot it like 3 times. It's in the can. They just, I don't think they I know they don't want to have another Dark Phoenix fiasco where it's going to be an albatross around their neck from Fox. I think they just want to get it onto streaming, start making some money on it, and just do it that way. And I think we're going to probably end up with that. I would guess we're going to get New Mutants released in October for time for Halloween.
One of my clients is actually in the New Mutants, and they loved it.
Yeah, I heard the final cut is actually pretty darn good. I heard that I heard that the cut that Disney did when they got all the material over from Fox and Disney did a recut of it. I heard that is phenomenal, and I honestly can't wait to see it because I'm a huge fan of. I'm drawing a blank on Arya Stark's name right now in real life. Maisie Williams.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of Maisie Williams, and I'm actually, even though this was filmed 5 years ago now, I still can't wait to see her on screen because I think she's such a talent. She's so vibrant.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And plus, the New Mutants is just a cool concept.
So, speaking of Disney, unless people have other things to say about movie theaters, I'm going to move on to the next story, which has to do with Shanghai Disneyland, I should say, is going to open in May 11th. This is going to, okay, guys, and here's the thing. I put off my trip this last year. I go to Disneyland every year since I was 4 months old. Will knows. We've been together a dozen times or so. I take my family. My kids have gone. We were actually putting it off till we were going to go in December, towards the end of the year or early next year anyway, right? Obviously, all the parks are closed with the COVID stuff. So Shanghai Disney is opening, slated to open May 11th, obviously with a bunch of caveats. But,
oh, yeah.
I don't know. Thoughts? I know I should go. Let me open this up so I can say what precautions they're going to take while
they're going to have definite caps on
attendance,
on crowd size, right? Yeah. Like I want to say on any given day at Disneyland you're going to get 50,000 plus. I want to say probably between 45 to 60,000 depending on the day. Closer to holidays you're going to get closer to 70. I think they cap it at 85 is when they shut the gates, and I think they've only had to do that a few times. They're definitely gonna have to shrink that down. I'm guessing they're probably gonna cap it at about 15 to 20,000. They're gonna go on minimum capacity on all the rides. They're probably gonna be sending, like if you go on Pirates of the Caribbean, they're gonna send empty boat.
Well, not only that, they're gonna have to do, they're gonna have to still try to do social distancing. They're going to require people to wear masks. Obviously,
they're going to definitely be taking. They're going to be taking temperatures of everybody as they come into the park. I have a little bit of a personal thing in this because I've already planned and paid for my trip to Disney World in December. So I'm planning on going the second week of December to Disney World with my mom and my sister and my sister's wife. And we actually had we do a weekly Zoom call together. Well, Skype, because my mom doesn't Zoom all that well. So she still knows how to do Skype. So we do Skype every Sunday. And next month is actually when we start our Disney dining plan. And then in 3 months, we've got to do our fast tab passes and everything, right? So they haven't cut that stuff off yet. We're still planning like we're going in December.
Right. So
honestly, go ahead.
So I'm going to list off kind of what they say in this, what Bob Chapek said at the earnings call. And we have another story after this to talk about as far as Disney goes. But the thing to keep in mind too, and I want you guys to think about while I read this off is this, if this goes well, obviously this is the guinea pig, kind of like we were talking about for with movie theaters and stuff too. When this all happens again, we have to see how this goes and if it can be done. The issue is, and I think the big issue is going to be translating Asia to the United States. We are having a hard enough time convincing people to walk into a grocery store wearing a mask. Could you imagine if you pay $4,000 for a vacation to Disney World and you have all these stipulations as well, right? What vacation are people going to expect? You know what I mean? Especially in America. But
it really is. It comes down to the government structure too. I mean, it's a lot easier for China to impose strict regulations on stuff than it is in America.
Absolutely. Yeah. So real quick, they said it's a phased approach with limits on attendance using advanced reservation entry system, controlled guest density using social distancing and strict government required health and prevention procedures, including use of masks, temperature screenings, and other contact tracing and early detection systems. So is that, and I'm a Disney, I love me a Disney theme park. It is I spent my 40th birthday a year ago April, in Disneyland. That was what I wanted to do for my 40th birthday.
We went bowling.
And we bowled and we had a great time. But this, I'm sorry, this is not a Disney vacation. This is not a vacation. This is actively stressful in my mind thinking about this stuff.
It is. The good thing about it is that Disney is so good at planning pre-planning on infrastructure, right? Mm-hmm. So the lucky thing is almost every part of the parks are already designed to institute stanchion and queue lines, right? Even on the parade routes, all the queue lines, most of the free space walking areas, if you look down on the ground, you see spots that the stanchions can be screwed in for queue lines to be set up. Yeah. So they're already designed for social distancing. All they have to do is make sure that they design those ropes accordingly and make sure it's properly marked and have enough cast members around to direct traffic. But it's already designed. Yeah, it's already designed to be that way. So I think if any company is going to do it, Disney's going to be the one to be the guinea pig because they already have the infrastructure designed to do it.
Well, if they can pull it off, obviously Universal and the rest will fall behind. Will, you were shaking your head a minute ago. I was reading that off. What are your thoughts on this?
No. First of all, there's lots of things medically, scientifically that it doesn't make sense. You can be asymptomatic of the virus and still spread it, okay? And unless you're going to have an antigen test there, right there to say you've already been exposed to it and you're fine, which we're not even sure the antibodies mean we're protected. Exactly. Also, too, most people didn't have a fever with COVID.
Yeah.
That's which that's not. So what I would say is if you are someone who's healthy and wants to take risks with you and your family, I'm all about it. Go ahead. But it's also not about you. What if you are around someone who has pre-existing conditions? I want nothing more than the world to open. Trust me, because my job really depends on it.
Well, for sure.
Like, hugely. But at the same time, I don't want people, I just think it's an unnecessary, I would not take the risk. Let me say that. I would not take the risk.
Well, and this was the first park to close too. They've been closed since January 25th. And obviously,
I still think it's early.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Absolutely.
I would honestly, I would be okay with them shutting down for the rest of the year, even if it means pushing my trip back to 2021. I'd rather be safer than sorry, because let's keep the yeah, I mean, we got to stay sheltered in place, and just we don't pass it, especially since the entire United States, I think we've tested 1% of the entire population.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we just passed 3 million tests, and we have over 300 million people.
Well, let's bring it back to something that we were all planning on doing in a couple of months, is going to Comic-Con. Whether Nick thought he was going or not, he was going to join the Wills and I. I mean, obviously that has been put off. We talked about this on the last show anyway, but that's been postponed for a whole year. And basically what they said is, if you want a refund, you can get a refund. Otherwise, we'll see you in 2021, So Nick, what do you think? Theme parks is too early?
Hit or miss, man. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm one of those, I'm all about opening up jobs so people can get back to work, stabilize the economy a little bit, but I'm not for over risking ourselves for the sake of not wanting to be controlled.
I got you.
If things don't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Like look at New York. New York is having so many issues where I'm like, this shit's real. Utah's having so little issues. I'm just like, whatever. Right? Like we're not good at social distancing here.
No.
And yet our numbers are great. And it's like, hey, praying works apparently. I don't know. Like, I can't figure it out because Utah hasn't done social distancing.
Please don't say praying's working, dude. You're killing me. I'm just kidding.
But I'm with you. 300 people at the airport to greet your, son or daughter, family member coming off a religious mission after you were told no more than groups of 10. and no one gets sick, bro. I just gotta say,
no one knows they're sick. They could be
that's the other thing,
asymptomatic. That's okay. I'm a total introvert that loves big cities. I mean, if I could get lost in a sea of like 10 million people, I'd be totally happy to do that. I'm like in my personal health for the last, no offense, Marshall, but for like in personal health for the last 5 years, there's a reason why the northern coast of California is called the Lost Coast. It's an hour just to get to the next small town. And I mean, like, honestly, if I were to try to get Domino's delivered, it's 3.5 hours away.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
At best.
Yeah. The closest Costco is an hour and a half. The closest Walmart's 3 hours, an hour and a half.
I mean, have you heard of Piachi's?
Right?
Oh, no, don't get me wrong.
Thanks for supporting your local business, bro.
Exactly. And I will shout out, going back to Salem, the best pizza I had on the East Coast was in a place in Salem called the Firehouse. Highly recommend it. If you ever go to Salem, get pizza at the Firehouse. It's really, really good.
All right.
But I'm thankful that I'm having to shelter in place here because it is so remote that we've had a grand total of 13 cases in our county. And so far, 7 of them recovered. 6 of them are a family that just got back into the county. And so they're all sequestered right now.
But I'm gonna throw a wrench in what you just said though, Will, too, because someone just came up today to pick up socks, curbside pickup for Pippies, right? Someone that we know from the schools. I'm not going to say her name, but she's been sick for 2 months, but she couldn't get tested, and she's just finally feeling better. And she just literally handed me a check today for this thing, and I was like, trying to keep my distance. And Josh and I were moving wood, or whatever this afternoon, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I've been really sick for the last 2 months." I was like, "What?" But the problem is, if it happens here, we have 2 ICU beds, a tiny ass hospital, and no tests. So we don't even know. And people are acting like, "Oh, it's not going to happen here. It's not here," but we don't even know. But I'm with you, Will.
Exactly.
The remoteness is beneficial, sort of, right now.
Right. And I am glad that, I mean, I only basically leave my apartment once every 2 weeks when I go to the grocery store. I wear a mask every single time, and I've been to work twice in the last 2 months. And I was there for maybe half an hour each time. So other than that, it's me and my cat, and he's starting to get annoyed at me. So it's
when you're getting on your pet's nerves.
I know, my cat's like, "Get out of my house."
You're usually gone for a while.
I think with Disney, the only thing I worry about is I feel for the employees who don't have a lot. That's why I'm like, we want people to get back to work because you want families to eat and to have a life.
No, I mean,
it's like, it's just hard.
Yeah, I've got some friends that work for Disney down in Orlando and a couple in Anaheim. And I've had family that's worked for Disney in Anaheim. I personally worked for the Disney stores for a couple of years. They don't pay a lot. I mean, it's fairly close to minimum. And the thing is the theme parks are in areas that aren't that cheap. If you want to live in Orlando or if you want to live in Anaheim, I mean, you can commute from Manchester or somewhere in Southern California, but you're going to get higher crime rates, crappy ass apartments and whatnot. But I think minimum wage at Disneyland right now is like $12 an hour. I mean, it's just, you can't really live on that in Anaheim.
Right. So speaking of Disney, since we're just moving this along before we get too tangenty, you put something in here, Will, about they're pausing construction to save money, which makes sense because there was a huge thing in Epcot that was supposed to be done for the 60th, right?
It's phased over a couple of years, but they're doing a huge remodel to Epcot, and not just Epcot, but the World Showcase. They're retheming a whole bunch of Epcot. They're totally remodeling Spaceship Earth, which is the crown jewel of Epcot. I mean, it's the globe. But they're also putting in a new Tron ride and Tron roller coaster, a whole new Disney area, like all this stuff, right? That's all had to go on pause. There's new statue theming. New statue theming. They're putting a new Moana section and so basically like they're bringing up Polynesia and Moana into the World Showcase. I was hoping that they hadn't mentioned it, but they were going to be retheming the water ride in the Mexico area into a Coco ride, which I think would be just it's a no-brainer that they should do that, but it hasn't actually been mentioned yet. But it's been like,
but they're working on something with Coco right now. I
know
better
that. because it's still the largest movie ever in Mexico.
This is a cool film too.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Coco, yeah.
But basically, it's a $900 million project. And what's so important about that is they only did $500 million of expenditures last year. So they had planned to do another 400 extra million this year. And they're basically canceling all that out and pausing it. And they might not redo some of them. I mean, the stuff that's already been started, because like they're repainting the Cinderella Castle. That's obviously going to have to be finished because they're partway done with it.
Right.
They're going to have to finish the Tron ride because they're already into construction on it. They've already laid concrete and all that stuff, and they've already started laying tracks. So they've got to finish that. But I don't think they've started on the Moana stuff yet, so that could get pushed back or canceled.
Cancel outright. Yeah.
There was a statue that a whole bunch of people were looking forward to, which was a bronze of Walt actually sitting on steps that you could like sit next to and pose with and everything.
Oh, that would be so cool.
And people are hoping that that's actually already been commissioned, because if it is, and it's an expenditure, it's already been dealt. But if it hasn't, then that might have to go by the wayside. It's just it's all up in the air right now with this pause.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to, because one, you can't really socially distance while doing some construction projects. I mean, you have to have multiple people working in close proximity. But second, you just, they don't have the money right now.
Right. Well, they don't have the money coming in that they normally do.
Exactly. Right. I mean, yeah. And if they'd already put out, hundreds of millions of dollars, that's why they're wide open to there's been rumors of a hostile takeover by Apple for the last couple months, because Disney stock is dropping, and they're so overextended because of the Epcot expansion, that they really have. That's why they've had to furlough so many employees, is because they don't have much fluid equity right now. And so Apple was thinking about trying to do a hostile takeover where they'd be able to take over, I think, 10% of their stock and then just go and make a bid for it. And can you imagine if Apple were to take over all this stuff? They just it would be.
I couldn't imagine.
I mean, I like Apple, but Disney's the house of imagination. I mean, so is Marvel, so is Star Wars. They all are. I think Apple would just take the soul out of it. You know what I mean?
Well, we're all Apple users, yes. Phones.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
And computers and Mac users and everything else. I mean,
I'm a PC person when it comes to computer, but I love my iPhone. Don't get me wrong. And I think Steve Jobs is a revolutionary. I mean, iTunes broke the music industry. It's just, I don't think that they are capable to handle the imagination side of it. They'd be able to handle the Imagineering side of it, because they're great engineers at Apple. But I don't think they will be able to handle the marketing or the children's side of it as well, as Disney just has 100 years of experience doing.
Well, I mean, think about this though. If you're Apple and you end up taking over Disney, your best play is to do nothing. Let them be themselves.
Absolutely.
Just have the company and keep everybody in place and let them do their thing,
Absolutely.
I mean,
the thing is, I just don't know if Tim Cook would be able to do that.
Right.
I mean, some of the biggest things that Disney owns right now started as Apple projects.
That's true.
I mean, Pixar started as an Apple project. Skywalker Sound started as an Apple project.
But why else would you? Why else would you buy Disney?
Right.
You're not buying Disney to turn it into Apple TV.
No, and they're not buying it for the profit they're going to get in the next 10 years. They would buy it for the profit they're going to get in the next 50 years.
Right. What were we going to say, Will?
But don't you think Disney influenced the new Star Wars movies? Maybe not in the most
controversial,
productive way.
I think it depends on how you look at it. I'll be honest with you. I think theatrically, yeah, it's been divisive in the theater. I think what they're doing on Disney Plus right now, especially with The Mandalorian and what they've done with the animated stuff, like Rebels and the Clone Wars or whatever. I mean, it's
amazing. Yeah, that's
absolutely phenomenal.
The one thing that Disney does well is Disney recruits phenomenally well, right? And so, for example, if you go back 20 years ago, when they brought in Lasseter, I mean, granted, Lasseter worked for Disney in animation 40 years ago, but they brought him back in Pixar. They recruited Brad Bird after he did Iron Giant. They recruited Jon Favreau to do Iron Man, and they do these. The mistake they made when they were relaunching the Star Wars stuff is they were taking the flash in the pans, right? Instead of recruiting and starting them small, like Marvel's writing. Marvel's Writing Academy, where they get people to do the writing and then they get up into directing. So that's how the Russos came up, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have that stuff where Russos start off small and then they get the big budget movies, right? Like they do now. They're trying to get somebody like Josh Trank to come in after doing one big movie and all of a sudden hit it out of the park, and they just can't do that. Colin Trevorrow's the same thing, right? They get a flash in the pan, and that's the problem that Kathleen Kennedy was making. And I think if you had Iger making the choices, or why am I drawing a blank? Who's in charge of Marvel? I can see him.
Feige?
Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Feige. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige. If you had somebody, because they are not only awesome at recruiting talent, but training them over the course of the long haul. If Kathleen Kennedy had that skill, which I don't think she does, then it would be better.
You don't, because see, this is where I'm going to disagree a little bit. Like, I think Kathleen Kennedy was the one who was super influential in setting everything up for the Mandalorian. And I thought she did a good job with that. I feel like, from what I've heard from my little insiders, is that there was pressure for the first film to be done super quick, and to make it more of a similar flavor. Those were the words that were used. When originally
it was basically a New Hope redux. That's why.
Exactly. And where she did take her biggest risk in The Last Jedi, which personally, I can understand why people were upset with that film, but I loved it.
Same. I love that movie.
I think it was amazing.
Exactly. I'm a huge Rian Johnson
fan. I liked it mostly for the risks it took.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But see, that's one of my things, is that that's one of the people that they've recruited in, and they're trying to build them up over the course of these years, right?
Yeah.
What I like about them, but we'll get to it here in a second, but the news with bringing in Taika Waititi in, is this somebody who had an established track record, who they recruited into Marvel, and now they're recruiting him over into Star Wars, right?
Well,
it's the same sort of thing that Favreau did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Favreau, made his bones on his own independent movies. They knew that he could run run things on a budget, which Disney loves. And then they brought him in. He knocked it out of the park with Iron Man. He's
a hell of a storyteller,
right? And they need to have idea guys, and that's what Rian Johnson is. Rian Johnson has great ideas, right? Unfortunately, Josh Trank and Colin Trevorrow weren't idea people.
Yeah,
they had good material to work with, but they weren't the idea people.
I still liked Rogue One, but anyway.
No, Rogue One was great.
Nick, what were you saying? You were anti. I saw your face.
Yeah, no, Last Jedi just fell short for me altogether.
Yeah.
So it did take some risks, but
you didn't like the risk that they took.
Yeah.
No, and it wasn't believable to me. Right?
Okay.
That you don't think it was believable that Luke got bitter?
It's also Star Wars, right? I mean,
see, that's not what I'm mad about. That's what I don't.
Okay.
Like,
I would have been mad.
Anything involving Rey and Kylo, loved. Absolutely loved. The rest of the Rebels, though, hated it.
All right.
I think they lost.
Didn't like it.
Over the trilogy, I think they lost a total chance to completely develop Poe and Finn.
Yeah,
because they had some great backstory stuff that came out in the comics. Like, I want to know what the hell happened with Poe and the life tree. Yeah. I mean, this is a kid who grew up around a force-sensitive tree, and that's probably why he's such a great pilot.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't delve even anywhere into that in the movies. Exactly.
I feel Finn's character, just it was flat. This movie.
Yeah.
It was the same. It was the same antics all over again, and it's just like, okay, we've seen that. Like, meh. And I still don't know why he's so obsessed with Rey.
Yeah,
because you don't understand why he's so obsessed with Rey. It's like she saw him as a good person right away,
instead of a stormtrooper.
Oppressive regime.
Come on, man. Where's your heart, Nick?
I agree with what you're. I agree with what a lot. I agree. Yeah, but I think Nick has a point.
He does. I'm just messing with him.
From a military view.
You have a point. We're just screwing with you, man. But you're right. I mean, it's not fleshed out enough, I think, why he's so obsessed with her. But at the same time, it's there. But you have to but if you were just
access that a little.
Yeah, you have to bring that closer to the surface to tell the right story,
Because that's what they did with Kylo and Rey, and the kiss at the end made sense to me, because it was like they've been doing this good side, dark side battle with each other in their own heads for how long?
Yeah.
They've connected on a level that no one else has. And with with Finn, it wasn't ever explained. It may have been one way, right? But it wasn't ever openly explained that way, right?
Well, they didn't even,
and it was
they
just
spent
like
the whole second movie they weren't even together that whole movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super weird. But anyway.
I mean,
yeah. I wanted more Finn is what I really wanted.
Oh, we all wanted more Finn.
And Poe's character just felt out of place too, like a little bit too over the top. And from a military perspective, like the whole org structure and everything, and like,
well, and it did get a little.
It didn't make sense to me.
It got a little clunky in that movie, I think, between like Poe and the, I guess the brass or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like that was a little murky. I think I agree with you.
Yeah, and this is personal preference. Having an evening or a ball gown as your military outfit just didn't do it for me.
But she looked
for Admiral Holdo?
She looked good.
Or Leia?
Any of them.
What about any of them?
Leia, I mean, Leia makes sense. She's a princess.
Yeah.
But Holdo, her character was pretty on point for someone who's not gonna put up with bullshit. But it's like I cannot take it serious because you're presenting something different than what she is, and it really was like, for me, it was jarring.
I'm curious what you think of that, Will. What do you think of the dress, Holdo? I don't know why we're talking about Holdo's dress, but maybe that's the name of the episode.
Which Will?
You.
Okay, so I think there is a point of when we have military leaders that are women in shows that we somehow have to feminize them in a traditional sense. And I agree with Nick. It doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. You know, what I think is interesting about Leia is we've seen her in A Force Awakens have that more like structured military garb, and we've seen her both teeter this princess type of feel, but also this very like military type of feel. And I think for her background, people would expect her sometimes to have a flash of royalty that would be different than there. Holdo, who I loved her as a character, I thought she was brilliant.
Yeah, she was
great. I have to agree with Nick. Like, I understand why that's frustrating because it's like you always have to like feminize them.
What I don't get is that the original trilogy hit it on the head with Leia. She was great because in the first movie she was in her dress because she was supposed to be a princess on a diplomatic mission. Mm-hmm. But once she became tactical, bam, it was pants all the time and always matching the environment because she was supposed to fit in with what she was doing.
Well, until she was enslaved, but that's a different thing.
Well, that's a totally different.
I'm joking.
She also killed Jabba the Hutt in that slave outfit.
Exactly.
And I would like to call it I want to return that outfit to the Hutt Slayer outfit.
Absolutely.
Because she choked him to death.
Hell yeah.
Can we just call it the Slayer outfit?
Exactly.
So look at Queen Amidala.
Yeah.
Padme. When she was a badass, she was a badass. She dressed like it. She carried a gun. Like, she didn't hold back, right?
Except for when the animal just happens to cut her off her clothes, but not her body at all.
Yeah, there was that.
No, okay, but so for every 16-year-old boy out there, here you go. It's Padme, who everyone wanted.
You know, George had to throw something out there for that.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. Yeah. And Padme did a good job. I mean, that was part of her character. It fit her dress, fit the situation, and who she was trying to portray at any given point.
Can we all agree that George Lucas is a little bit of a creepy douche sometimes? I mean, this is the guy who told Carrie Fisher that she could not wear a bra because they didn't have underwear in space. And so any of her outfits, she's not wearing a bra or underwear basically because Lucas said, hey, they don't have it. I'm like, that's kind of creepy.
But
you know what's funny? No, go ahead, Marshall, go.
I've heard that before, and it just makes me laugh. Like, in the future or in our time, in a galaxy far, far away, when they are flying spaceships, they couldn't figure out how to hold boobs up. Like, really, George? Really, bro?
Hey, question though: do we need to hold boobs up?
I'm okay with bras. I'm okay without. I
really want to hear from Will here, though, because as somebody who actually knows Carrie and Billy, I want to know what your thoughts on this are.
I mean, Carrie really would laugh about it, and I know, like, especially when it comes to her and being in the Hutt Slayer outfit. That's what I'm calling it from now on.
Yeah.
She would always remind people when they would come up, but like, didn't you feel like, because they consider Carrie and Leia, like very feminist. Like she did take charge. She was
absolutely.
battled. And she used to be like, yeah, and you know what happened? I murdered that monster in a bikini and I did it great. And so I won. I have to say what George did right about those films is the camera never sexualizes Leia at all.
True.
True.
It never,
yes, I will give
it
that.
never glances up. And I think, a part of me is like George was a product of his time.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, though, George was revolutionary in creating a character that did take charge, that she wasn't just someone in waiting. And he was lucky enough to have someone as brilliant as Carrie who can pull that off. Because if you've ever met her, have you guys ever met her?
Oh,
no.
At all at like any fan thing?
I wish I had.
I'm just
checking. He asked that like, really? You haven't?
Like, dumbass.
But like, if you ever had gotten a chance to meet Carrie, is that, and I said this on Just Keep Writing, but I'll say this all the time. She is everything you would expect and more. She was strong, but at the same time, she was vulnerable. She was kind at the same way that she can be firm and tell people to fuck off, basically.
Yeah.
So I think, it's just what I think of her as a person.
I mean, two things here really quick. One thing I just love about Carrie is how authentic she always seemed, right? It's like I loved Postcards from the Edge that she wrote because it's basically about her and her mom. And first of all, I mean, how often can you get Meryl Streep and Shirley MacLaine to play you and your mom? I mean, come on.
Right.
But that is just so brilliantly written. But I also love the scene in Blues Brothers where she's in the tunnel with the machine gun. And I'm like, that's like total. At the time, Carrie was, I think, 18 when she filmed Blues Brothers, maybe 19. And I'm like, that's just incredible, that scene too. But going back to George Lucas, I mean, Marshall and George are almost from the same hometown. I mean, you know what it's like to grow up in the Central Valley, Marshall, and it's I'm guessing it's fairly.
I used to cruise the same streets that he shot American Graffiti. I used to cruise Modesto, McHenry Boulevard.
Yeah, so. I mean, I mean, it's a hardcore ranching farming community that is rather misogynistic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, we got through a couple stories. I guess we should continue. Do you want to talk about the RIP or do you want to move on?
Yeah, this one kills me. I was so upset to hear that Sam Lloyd unfortunately passed away.
And I loved Scrubs.
Yeah, if you don't, you have to know him from Scrubs. He played the sad sack lawyer.
The lawyer, yeah.
And he was fantastic in that. He had one of my favorite bit parts on West Wing, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. He plays a UFO enthusiast who is fascinated with it, taking over the family business that his dad had about UFOs. He's just a phenomenal actor. And I just go back to Scrubs and him and what's her name? The
Elliot character?
No, the brunette that he ended up marrying in the show.
I'd have to go back and think. Anyway, but
she's fantastic.
Yeah,
he is just fantastic, and he had a great voice too. I mean, he was a barbershop quartet singer.
Yeah, really talented musician.
So talented,
and he would bust out in songs sometimes in Scrubs, and
absolutely.
It was great. Yeah,
and just one of your quintessential character actors.
Yeah,
and I was so bummed to hear that he passed away, and the fact that it wasn't COVID related either. He ended up having a tumor. I think
he had a brain tumor that spread, and he was only 56. I think he had just had a kid too, not too long ago, which is really too bad. So, well, I just had to put that in there because that bummed me out. I heard it on a couple different other podcasts, and I was like, well, we usually do highlight folks who will be missed, of course, as Kevin Smith says, and he definitely will be. So.
Kate Micucci is what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Who played she's fantastic. Because she does Garfunkel and Oates is with somebody else I can't remember. She's part of a comedy duo, but their quirkiness was just great, and Sam Lloyd is fantastic, and just the fact that he's only 12 years older than I am is just scary.
And then there's that. Don't think about that. So these next couple things I just want to go through really quick. I want to kind of get to what we've been watching under quarantine right now, because there's a lot of amazing stuff, amazing content out there, new stuff, old stuff, stuff we're revisiting, that kind of thing. And speaking of Scrubs, my family and I started watching Scrubs together not too long ago, and it it was one of the first sitcoms my wife and I binged. Like we would rent the DVDs from the rental place that used to be a thing. Young folks out there, but you know,
I miss those days.
I know, same. I miss going to the rental store and getting those, and we watched. We loved Scrubs, and that was just something. And it's nice to kind of share that kind of stuff with my kids. But I want to get to some streaming stuff. Disney Plus news. Obviously, for May the 4th, there's some news around that. The big thing is that all 9 movies now are being streamed on Disney Plus. Rise of Skywalker came out on the 4th. Have any of you guys watched it again at home? I haven't watched it yet.
I've watched it like 5 times.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah.
I watched it once at home since. Yeah, and it holds up. It's good. I think a little bit too much of a minor fan service that I don't think absolutely needed to be in there, like having Lando possible daughter be connected in there somehow. You could have that.
Katana.
Yeah, you could have that great character there without having to fan service back to the original trilogy. I mean, you could have Lando and you could have Tajana, but you don't have to have them that they could possibly be related. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody is connected in a galaxy far, far away.
I mean, let's be honest here. If they didn't want to do that, they wouldn't have done the first movie the way they
did. True.
Yeah.
So that aside, we'll also premiere the first episode of the Mandalorian documentary series that is on Disney Plus. And I guess the first episode, I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna kind of let them bank up. I think I have a hard time watching documentary series like
one at a time.
So I'll probably let 2 or 3 build up and then watch them together. But the first one I think is focused on the direction of the Mandalorian, which obviously Jon Favreau and his crew and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I just haven't watched it yet.
Who thinks that they need to come back with the second season of the Imagineering story?
I'm waiting. That was okay.
I haven't seen it.
It's phenomenal.
I've watched it
I
think twice all the way through, and I will pick and choose random ones to watch. I love that series. There's only 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing, like I said, I let a couple of them bank up, and then I watch them, and I was like, okay, I want this to continue. And so do we know if that's continuing?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because they did bring it up to modern times. I mean, what they could do is keep the concept of Imagineering story, but go into, instead of just doing theme parks, they could bring up, like, do a 6-episode season on Pixar or a 6-episode season on Marvel. You know what I mean? I think that would be a phenomenal way to do it, because Imagineering isn't just, theme parks. Imagineering is incorporating Skywalker sound or Pixar animation. It's the same sort of concept because they're software engineers, they're sound engineers. There's a whole bunch of different engineers. They're not all mechanical.
Well, if you guys haven't watched it, you guys should check that series out. It's really good. But anyway, the Mandalorian series, maybe we'll come back in a few weeks and talk about the Mandalorian series, but when it's done. So I thought possibly we could watch this trailer, but we mentioned it earlier in the show and I want to move on. But Netflix hasn't dropped their new Space Force trailer, which I'm really looking forward to Space Force. I love Steve Carell, and it's some of the same producers and directors, right, from The Office and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's mostly him and Greg Daniels, who Greg Daniels is the creator and writer of Upload. He got his start. Actually, I read up a little bit about him. He and Conan O'Brien basically have mirrored careers, right? Because they both got their start on not necessarily the news. They both worked on Saturday Night Live. They both worked on Simpsons, and they kind of split off. And Conan went to go do his own thing, and Greg Daniels went over to do The Office. He did, I think he worked on Community for a little while with Dan Harmon. So he's done a whole bunch of stuff, and then he finally did his own thing with Upload, which we'll get to. Is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. So this is the time of the show because we only have a couple, honestly, like 2 more things I wanted to even talk about this week. But I wanted to kind of, the chunk of this, obviously we went off on some tangents, but I want to check in with you guys to see what you've been watching, anything new, some you suggest to the listeners, and that kind of thing, in this segment. So here we are. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Nick, you go.
Nick, start.
Oh, thanks, 1L. Well,
oh, classic 1L.
By the way,
that sounds like that Kryptonian name, 1L.
For real.
I was actually on a work messaging system, Slack, and I said, "Hey, I will go do this," and I typed in capital WIL and sent it, and I was like, "Oh, I guess that is wrong." Okay, so used to your name. So I'm binging right now, Surviving R. Kelly. It's all on Netflix. There's three different series depressing. On this. It is depressing.
I don't know if I can do it.
It makes me mad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's natural reaction for me. It makes me mad. It makes me want to go get on steroids and go to the gym 8 hours a day and buy all the guns I can because I got a 5-year-old daughter now. You know, I don't know. But it's a great story. To me, I feel like it's kind of empowering for the victims.
Oh, absolutely.
To put their story out there, and I hope it empowers other people. And like I said, there's 3 parts to it, right? There's the original HBO documentary, or was it Stars? I can't remember either one. Then there's the what happened after, and then there's what happened after part 2. Like,
because it's still going on. Like, he was just charged again for some stuff this year.
Yeah, he got in trouble.
He's in jail right now, I think. Yeah. But like, this shit is like drama movie shit. Like, you're like, how is this happening?
And the thing is, you think about, okay, well, this has just been this has just been in the major news for like the last 5 years or so, but it goes back to
30.
Aaliyah. Yeah, I know, it goes back to Aaliyah.
Years. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I couldn't figure out what you guys were talking about, because I came into the text chain a little late this afternoon, this evening, because I was making dinner and we were watching TV, and then I came to prep for this. I was like, what the hell? What are we talking about Aaliyah? And now I get it. But anyway.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So I've been binging that. Obviously, I'm rewatching Tiger King with my wife because she hasn't seen it.
Okay, guys.
Dude.
1L, Nick.
Yeah.
Greg's here. Straight up refuses to watch Tiger King. And I tried to convince him last time we talked just to give it a chance, because it's not like, you're jumping on the bandwagon or anything. It's just like this perfect storm of chaos that you can't stop watching. But it's not in a way of like shitty TV. Like, it's really well done.
I know. Well, the frustrating thing is, and this is going to go back to John Oliver.
You guys are going to convince him, is what I'm trying to say.
John Oliver did an episode about Joe Exotic like 3 years ago. And I remember that episode. I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I know most of the story. Plus, plus I'm just not a big fan of animal mistreatment documentaries.
But you also don't see any of that.
I know, but
it's actually not an animal mistreatment documentary. It is a murder for hire plot.
These people exist,
which I get. I might be convinced into it, especially with the new Nick Cage news, because he's one of my guilty pleasures.
Well, and we might as well
pick the wrong person for that.
Honestly, we might as well. I don't know about that. Nick Cage gets into some crazy. When he gets into a character, dude, he's so over the top. Yeah. Is Joe Exotic not the most over the top person you've ever met?
If you want to hear the best story about how Nick Cage acts, watch the Inside the Actors Studio with John Travolta. And the James Lipton is asking John Travolta about filming Face Off with Nick Cage.
I love that movie
and they both come from a very overacting vaudevillian type of acting families, right? Both the Travoltas and the Coppolas kind of come from that sort of breed, right?
Well, Nick is a Coppola, isn't he?
Yeah, Nick Cage is Nick's real last name is Coppola, right? So, and Travolta's aunt was an actress, this whole thing, right? But Travolta answers his question with this story about their first day on set on that, and he says that he and Nick Cage kind of like pulled each other aside and goes, "Well, what sort of acting are we gonna do here, right? I mean, like, how are we gonna play this stuff? It's John Woo, but it's an over-the-top script. So what are we gonna do?" And Nick Cage just looks at John and says, "Follow my lead," right? And so then he just goes like, uber over the top. Which, if you haven't seen Face Off, they're so over the top for during the movie, right? And so after the first take, John just looks at Nick and says, "Oh, we're doing that kind of acting." And I'm like, that is quintessential description of Nick Cage.
But and we have this story later we were going to talk about, but Nick Cage is slated to play the Tiger King in a new scripted TV series based off of the documentary or whatever. I have no interest in seeing that, if I'm being honest, but I do like Nick Cage, so I might.
I'd be more likely to watch that, even though I'm a huge.
Watch the damn documentary.
I'm a huge documentary fan. Documentary fan, right?
Yeah.
I love documentaries, right? I can't get enough of them. But I would actually be more likely to watch the Nick Cage version.
Anyway, back to what Nick's watching.
You need to watch the Tiger King.
Just watch it.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I'll put it on my list, but it's not number one on my list right now.
If one else says to watch it, then you have to watch it tonight.
Well, I'm just going to be honest. I've only seen bits and pieces of the Tiger King.
Well, I quit.
Okay, I already have and I'll get to when we get to mine. I'll tell you what I'm going to be watching tonight. But go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right. All right. I think both
sake,
Wills need to just watch the damn documentary and be done.
For the sake of argument, you both have to watch it and tell me who's going to be better on the role, Nick Cage or Thomas Lennon. In our chat that we have with our little Zoom meeting, Thomas Lennon went on the Colbert Show as the Tiger King already.
Oh, really?
Okay, well, Thomas Lennon is one of the most underrated people in Hollywood. I love Thomas Lennon.
My favorite role he's ever done was 17 Again.
Oh, he was hilarious in that.
Only good because of him.
Oh, he was hilarious in that. But what I love is I used to watch At Midnight religiously, right? Because I loved Chris Hardwick and everything. But I just loved it when Thomas Lennon was on there because, one, he almost never won, which was hilarious because he was the boss. I mean, he was the executive producer of the show, and Chris Hardwick would like kowtow to him occasionally, and it's hilarious. But he would never like get any slack. But Thomas Lennon is fantastic.
All right.
Oh yeah, he's great. Once Upon a Time.
Oh yeah, I want to go back to that. Honestly,
classic.
I will tell you that one of my
we watched the first couple seasons.
One of my friends from high school is in that.
Oh, who?
Ian Bailey. He played. Did he play Hook or did he play Pinocchio? I can't remember. He was also in Band of Brothers. He was in Fight Club.
Oh, sweet.
He played the male boy in Fight Club. He was one of the guys in Band of Brothers. His first role was in a hiatus show that took over for Party of Five back in the 90s called Significant Others. And he played Jennifer Garner's love interest in her first show.
Jennifer Garner. Wow. That's
and
crazy.
So that, if you look back at it, was Ian Bailey, Jennifer Garner, and Adam Goldberg were all in this show together. And I think Adrian Pasdar was in it too, but I can't remember. But he was in that.
Adrian.
He won an Emmy for in starring Pancho. Oh no, he won an Emmy for a daytime Emmy for and then the party started or party something, and then he was in starring Pancho Villa as himself. He was in Center Stage. He was on ER for like 10 episodes. He's done quite a bit of stuff, but the most recent thing is he was on Once Upon a Time for a while.
Anything else, Nick?
No, that's about it right now. I mean. Started Star Wars Clone Wars first season.
Oh, finally.
No, we're almost done with the first. We're over halfway through the first season. We're watching only a few every couple days with the family, but I wanted to watch it I wanted to get my kids back into it. We enjoy it. I mean, we loved Rebels and all that. I mean, we're gonna watch it, but it's going to take us a while to catch up. Obviously,
I will say, as a Star Wars fan, I've actually never watched the Clone Wars.
I know. I was only holding off because of my kids.
I love Rebels. I liked Resistance. I just.
Well, you haven't watched Tiger King. What else? So
okay, did I just ruin my opportunity for possibly getting a job just because I haven't watched Clone Wars?
No, not at all.
No, it's the Tiger King one.
Yeah, that's strike two. Well, that's two. I don't know, man. If you get one more, I think one else is just gonna log off.
Look, I'm just saying, you're doing a pop culture podcast, and there's nothing more than pop culture than the Tiger King.
Yeah, it's kind of brutal right now.
There's a difference between pop culture and pop medium, and culture is culture. I don't find Tiger King to be culture.
Just watch the first 10 minutes, and if you stop watching it, great.
I think I didn't watch the last episode. Yeah. So it's not like I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. I will tell you this: if you guys commit to coming back on our next podcast, whether it be in 2 weeks or so, I will guarantee you that I will have watched the Tiger King by then. How's that?
Done.
All right.
Yeah, done.
Committed.
Okay, I'll do that.
You heard it here first, live on Twitch.
And I will make sure I watch at least the first season of Clone Wars.
There you go. All right. Let's go to Will with 1L. What you watching?
The Clone Wars. I just watched the last episode. I'm not going to give away any spoilers,
please,
but
no
I have
spoilers.
to say this. I'm not going to give you. I know how upset
I've been
you get.
avoiding stuff like every time I see something Clone Wars, like on Twitter or anywhere, I have to just scroll past it because I don't want spoilers, and I have a while to go.
Yeah, let me just say this about the final episode. It is haunting. That show makes the prequels so much better.
All right.
And if they actually had that standout writing, especially with the from season 3 on, if they had that type of quality of writing with the scripts of the movies, it would have been a totally different series, because this series made me like Anakin, and it actually made it that more heartbreaking to his turn in Vader. And Ahsoka, I think, is the only animated character in the majority of Western TV that you actually see her have a real full character arc, and you see her grow. And I think it's amazing.
Well, and on that note too, I was thinking about revisiting the prequels, like the whole series, obviously with my kids, because I'll be like, oh, I remember. I'll remind them. I was like, remember when this happened in the prequels? They're like, no. And I'm like, oh God. So I kind of want to rewatch the prequels. Would you suggest when I'm done with the Clone Wars to go back then and rewatch the prequels with them?
No, I would watch. I would watch the prequels before you get to season 6.
Before 6. Okay, I was just curious
Well,
the time frame.
Filoni is such a phenomenal writer.
Yeah, Filoni's amazing.
For as much as Lucas is a great storyteller, he's a horrible writer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He can tell a great story. He can't write it for shit.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to dialogue.
Exactly, which is horrible. That's why it's so frustrating. Like, he learned that with the original trilogy, because like he learned that A New Hope was all stilted and jaunted, but then he passed it off for the second and third movies for the writing, and it got infinitely better. I just wish he had done that with the prequel trilogy.
Right. So besides the Clone Wars, anything else? Will?
I mean, I've rewatched Community. I needed like a good pick me up, so I've rewatched every episode.
It's gonna be something I'm gonna go back to when I'm done, because you guys texting about it back and forth. I'm like, God damn it, I'm not on the episode yet. And then we started watching the D&D episode a couple nights ago, and I was like, this is what these fuckers have been talking about, and I was dying, dude. I was dying. Dude, it was so funny.
I just want to do that over Zoom now, is play D&D with you guys.
Right? We can make it happen.
I've never played.
Really?
Yeah, I told you why.
Oh, right. I'll put a thing together, and we'll
took
play.
A couple decades of Marshall hounding me to actually do it, and I finally did. And what I love is I created a half.
He's a DM's nightmare, by the way.
I'm a half orc who actually goes by a human name, but he's also a pickpocket.
Oh, I love it.
It's insane.
It's hilarious. Oh, I love it.
I love it. I really want to play. I just, I never did, because, my mom, she was really strict when it came to that.
Well, it's a ton of fun, and I'm supposed to be getting my group back together at some point. But I'd love to get a group, have you guys do a little short campaign or something. Be fun over Zoom. We can use, there's some specific D&D software you can use to make it easier too, and I use D&D Beyond, so that's even easier. So.
I will tell you that was one of my favorite meets that we did. I think it was 3 Comic-Cons ago. We met the guy who runs Critical Role. We met him at Packbell Park, not Packbell Park, Petco Park
At Mercer.
Matt, yeah.
And totally a cool guy. Because Marshall and I had actually gotten lucky enough to run into Felicia Day, like I think 4 or 5 years in a row.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah,
to the point where she was calling Marshall and I sock guys.
I always brought her socks from Pippi's.
Exactly.
I actually have a sign that right there is actually signed by her right there on my wall.
Has she been on the show yet?
Come on,
bro. No, she doesn't. She's not. I'm sure
not get crazy.
I'm sure.
See, now look at Will's face right now, Will. This is what I get when he says, "Have you had her on the show yet?" He gives me this cockeyed look, like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah, like she didn't also meet 1,000 other people that day. I'm sure if we were able to get a hold of her and like say the sock guys want to talk to you, she might answer. Whether she'll come on the show or not is another thing.
Right.
I think you can get her on the show. I can get her on.
I know you could.
Of course, because you're like besties with her.
We go way back from Buffy.
Of course.
Well, let me ask you this: how do you get us on someone else's show?
That's what we want.
I don't want that.
John Oliver, I can go. Nick, what show do you want to go on?
Don't care.
I've been on
Ellen. I want to go on Ellen
before, but anyway.
Ellen would be great, but still, John Oliver is my number one.
Ellen?
Who doesn't love Ellen?
Ellen's awesome.
Yeah.
Although I don't like the fact that she has that.
I have no desire to be on her show.
What is it? A cow thing that she has on her desk that she lifts up the tail and a cigarette pops out its butt on her show.
I had no idea. I don't know. I haven't really watched her in a long time.
Because she's a smoker off camera, right? So if you ever look at her stage, like she's got this little like cow or dog or something. It's like a little figurine, and when you lift its tail, a cigarette will pop out its butt.
Oh my god,
that's hilarious.
I don't know if she has it anymore, but I remember I saw it on her set a few years ago.
Anyway,
it's hilarious.
We tangented again.
Exactly. So, like you don't know we tangent, Marshall.
I know. I'm just trying to keep. I'm looking at the clock here on how long things have been recording, and it's making me
nervous. Are you getting a little like breakout sweat?
It's like, okay, all right.
That's one reason why I'm glad
I can get this done tomorrow. At this point, I can get this done tomorrow.
I'm just waiting for my wife to text me and be like, "Are you done yet, or what?"
Well, I know my kid's already been out of bed. Kate already went to bed, came down and dealt with him. So now I'm like, all right. Not only can I get this done tomorrow, but I can also still be there for my. Okay, we're good. So who's talking? Who's next?
I'll jump in now.
You're next.
First of all, I just re-binged the entire run of The League, which was.
I stopped watching that like third season, I think.
I watched like all 7 seasons. Granted, each season's only 13 episodes, but I watched all 7 seasons in like 5 days, and I just love The League. It's a hilarious show.
The League's great. Yeah.
But then I just binged Upload over the last 2 nights, and that is phenomenal.
Well, I'll jump on that bandwagon with you real quick.
The writing.
I binged I watched the first 6 episodes last night.
Yeah, Robbie Amell is really good in it, and Andy, I can't remember her last name, the female lead. She's fantastic.
She's really good.
It definitely makes you think throughout the entire run. It ends on such a cliffhanger, so they've got to do 2 seasons. It's fantastic. The next thing I'm actually going to be starting tonight is the first episode of Ryan Murphy's new show, Hollywood.
I'm interested to hear what you think about it.
Have you started it yet, Will?
No, I'm starting it tonight.
Oh, okay.
And because I like about half the stuff that Ryan Murphy does. I kind of lost interest in Glee after a couple of years, but I watched 911. I like American Horror Story, right? He's kind of hit or miss on some points. So I'm kind of curious about this. I like the fact that he's not being totally truthful to history with it. He is definitely reimagining some stuff. I'm really interested to see how Jim Parsons does in it, because he looks phenomenal, because he's the person in Hollywood he's playing the person in Hollywood who took Rock Hudson under his wing.
Well, the trailer, I mean, I don't know. Bill Parsons is really good either way, so he's just a good actor. I say Jim, yes.
Yeah, and but it looks really good. Plus, it looks very stylized. I'm one of those people where I thought La La Land was both overpraised yet underappreciated at the same time, because there's certain things that they did that I thought totally got missed, and I think it's the same sort of thing that they're going to be doing with this stylized differences. Like, my favorite thing that La La Land did is if you ever watch their looping is just a little bit off. It's not perfect throughout most of the movie, because if you look at old Hollywood movies, their looping skills were horrible. Right, unless you got Rex Harrison, who absolutely refused to loop, and they always had a mic hidden in his tie. That's why his characters always wore a tie, because Rex Harrison would refuse to loop. But if you watch La La Land, the looping is just a little bit off, and it's those little things like that which take it back to Hollywood heyday that I love. So I'm looking forward to Hollywood, and I'm just kind of curious to see how they roll with it. Other than that, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist just finished, and it's that show that I laugh and cry every single episode. This whole season has had to deal with a dad with a degenerative illness. Unfortunately, my dad passed away, right about a couple months after I met Marshall, and his was sudden, but it definitely took me back to that. And it was the dad character is played by Peter Gallagher, who I just love. But the entire cast of Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is great. The music is fantastic. I just highly recommend it. And then I also, whenever I don't know what to watch, I just keep watching old CSI and Law and Order.
You gotta have something. You know?
A little mix of ER. I'm now in season 2 of CSI, season 3 of ER, and I just hit season 9 of Law and Order, which is also season 1 of SVU. So now I'm actually watching them in order, back and forth.
Crazy. So I'm gonna go through my list pretty quickly. I always divide mine up into 3 sections. First is what I'm watching with my family. So we've been watching. We never watched any of the X-Men movies. And my kids love the Marvel movies, so we started watching. We watched the first 3 X-Men, and last night we watched Last Stand. Not Last Stand. First Class. Yeah. So we watched that last night, and that was great. Like I said, we've been having fun with that, and I really like those movies. I forget how much I like those movies. Clone Wars. We've been watching the first season of that, which I'm stoked about. We watched Last Kids on Earth. I know Will 1L has seen it, right? The show's great.
I love that show, and I love the books. They're amazing.
I never read the books, but we watched that as a family.
There we go.
Oh, you got it.
They're
nice,
so good.
Yeah. So,
I love them.
Have you watched the show, Nick?
So I'm waiting. I'm forcing my 7-year-old to read this.
Okay, good call.
Good.
But animation is on point with these little mini comic strips and things like that.
That's exactly what the show looks like from what I just saw. So
here's my only frustration with the book is they literally put, my guess is like Nordic writing in there. Like,
what do you mean?
My 7-year-old has to pronounce. Hey, I'll just show you. And it's like, I don't know what that is. Like, why is this in for kids?
Like they're doing like actual like runes, or are they doing like Nordic language with like all the umlauts and everything?
Nordic language. Can you guys see that?
I can't really see it. No, what does it say? Bigelow?
Oh, it is. It's like Old English.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm having to tell my kid, like, dude, make it up. Don't care. Bypass it. Yeah, it is what it is. Like, that's my only quarrel with the book.
Yeah. But no, the show's fun. We really enjoyed it. It's really cute. And also really good writing. Characters are great. It's a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that. As far as what I'm watching with the wife, Community, as I was saying before, we watch the social distancing show with Trevor Noah every day, which is like my only news I feel like I can deal with. Like, I see the headlines and stuff on my phone, but like once I watch that, like it just kind of solidifies my day and I can move on and not think about other stuff. I don't know if any of you guys have watched this, but have you guys watched that show, Dave?
No.
Tell me about it, but
you have to watch this show. Okay, it's
about a Jewish rapper, right?
That.
It's batshit crazy. It's this Jewish skinny white dude trying to be a rapper. He gets his big break on this this song. He's kind of making fun of himself, but also he's got this entourage. He wants to be part of the hip hop world. It's insanely good, weird, fun, and also has a lot of heart to it when you get into a few episodes. I can't recommend it enough. It's so good. It's called Dave. Watch it. It's super, definitely worth watching. By myself, I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm hung up on Aerial America right now, which is dumb, but I watch it because I just love stuff like that.
They actually have a spinoff also called Aerial Cities, where it just covers major metropolitan areas.
I saw that, and I was like, well, I have 1,000 episodes of Aerial America to watch, so I guess I have plenty to watch. And then Upload, which like I said, I really enjoy that show. I'm going to finish it tonight, the series. I have 4 episodes left. And my short list right now is, I left Upload on there, is Hollywood and Picard. Has anybody watched Picard yet?
I've seen every single episode 5 times.
Oh, that's it?
Wow.
Yes. I'm obsessed.
I feel like we might need to do a special on that one.
Can we? And I want to watch it, and then I want to come back, because I'm kind of waiting for my wife to watch it, but she wasn't as big of a fan of... She does like The Next Generation. I thought, as far as sci-fi goes, I don't know, what do you guys think? I was trying to see if like a long-running series that my kids would maybe enjoy. I really love Next Generation, but maybe I need to go back and rewatch it and see if they would find it boring or not. But I loved every episode of that show.
You know, for me, I'm not a huge Trek fan. I liked the movies, but I never really was able to get into the TV shows. I don't know why. I don't know if I just didn't give them their due, and I should try.
Try Next Generation. And Deep Space Nine is really good too. But
okay,
And Discovery. Is anyone watching Discovery?
I haven't watched Discovery. No.
Is that the one with Scott Bakula?
No, that was Enterprise.
No, that's the.
Let me just.
Discovery's the more recent one that just is on the streaming service, right? That they did
right,
last
the one
year.
that they've had 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's just I'm not really a Trekkie. I really loved the Next Generation growing up.
Yeah.
Really, that's really truly the only one that I would say that I really loved. And I was unsure about Discovery, but I have to say the writing is brilliant. It's darker in the first season, but there's a reason for why it is. And you don't necessarily find out till the second season, and it makes perfect sense. And I just have to say, like, for once, they didn't focus on the character who was the captain.
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought that was brilliantly done.
Really good. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Because every show is focused on the captain.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, interesting.
I just love good storytelling. As long as it's good storytelling, then I'm on board.
Yeah, watch Tiger King, but that's cool.
Again, it's current pop culture.
I'm gonna smack that beard off your face.
You can't get through this, man. It's thick. All right, so that's what we've been watching. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm really trying to make a concerted effort to like watch things I've been saying I was gonna watch and I haven't. Community being one of them, and I'm really happy I started that one. So the last couple things I want to talk about, which we already talked about a little bit earlier, was Taika Waititi is confirmed for the Star Wars movie, the new Star Wars, a new Star Wars film, theatrical. So I don't know. Do we need to go back to this, or are we good on this? I feel like we.
Well, I think I feel like we should highlight the screenwriter that's actually with him. Do you know who it is?
I didn't know. Who is it?
Go ahead and tell us.
It is. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. It is. Christy Wilson Carnes is to co-write it, and she's the one who also wrote that movie 1917.
Okay, awesome.
I think it's a really interesting choice of pairing them because he is so funny, and I feel like he really paints a picture. But she lasers in on beats of a story and telling really powerful stories in a very short amount of time.
It also says she co-wrote Last Night in Soho as well.
Yep.
Which I never saw that either, but wow. Okay. Cool.
And then also the new female driven series by Leslie Headland, who was the showrunner for Russian Doll.
Oh, well, okay.
I love that.
I don't know if you heard that. She's the one who's headlining the new female Ahsoka live series.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's awesome.
I'm just saying it's going to be Ahsoka. I don't know.
All right.
Oh, it's got to be. I mean, Marshall's a huge fan of Russian Doll.
Yeah, that show is amazing.
But yeah, I mean, considering Ahsoka's already been cast with Rosario Dawson, right?
Yeah.
Well,
that's
rumored.
That's
they
in the
Mandalorian. They haven't officially come out with her.
Well, Ahsoka's supposed to show up in the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, and then there's just rumors of more Ahsoka coming through.
Okay.
They better, because I mean,
is this piggybacking off of Clone Wars, like the new season kind of stuff? You think, or?
Oh, the last episode, of the Clone Wars. No, I just need y'all to get into it.
I honestly, I don't think it's necessarily that. I think the 7th season of Clone Wars with Ahsoka is finally the waters hit the dam's edge and it's starting to crest over, because it's been bubbling up as Ahsoka's just been like the next main Disney female, or
but she showed up at the end of Rebels too, and
right? She showed up in Rebels. She was in Clone Wars. You know, she's just why am I drawing a blank on the voice actress's name?
Amy
Eckstein.
I know who you're.
Eckstein, yeah, because she's married to the former Angels baseball player.
Yeah.
Which I did get to. I got a copy of her book autographed at Comic-Con last time I went. That was great.
I'm gonna miss.
But yeah, Ashley Eckstein. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the fact that she's been keeping the character alive for years, I just think it's finally hit that crest where the wave's just going to come over, and we're going to get a whole bunch of content now.
Well, good.
Well, when fans originally watched the show, they hated Ahsoka. She was not well liked the first
in the Clone Wars,
seasons.
Yeah, well, because she was like a whiny little girl, right?
Yeah, she was like, meh. But she was a great contrast for Anakin, who was a little over cocky.
Right.
Season 5, though, I just need to say this real quick.
Okay.
The ending of season 5, also another haunting ending. I cried. I'm not gonna lie. It's really good.
Okay, I've been crying almost every show I watched lately. Like the last
don't
three
get me started.
episodes of 911, I've cried. It's just like, I don't know. I think I got to get my medication reworked because I'm just crying at everything.
Or we're all stuck at home and we're
Emotional.
We're dealing with it best we can.
That could be.
Well, on really quick gaming news, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I have gone back to. Will and I talked about it last time we recorded. I'm gonna go back to it this weekend a little bit, I think too. But they are having a bunch of in-game events. I have a link in the show notes to that. And
I've been playing a 10 this week. Actually,
and double
I played for like
double
3
XP
hours today.
was it double XP Renown and everything is going on till June 16th. So it's a great time to get into the game and level up some characters and have some fun. You talk about storytelling. The character class stories are phenomenal in that game. So.
They are great.
All right, gents. Anything else? For
No.
my sanity, please say no.
Well, actually, I've got this like half-hour diatribe I want to
Oh,
do it. And I'm
stop
just
it.
kidding.
But
Go
I
watch
do-
Avatar: The Last Airbender all over again.
Oh, that show's good. So good.
I hope you're talking about the show and not the movie.
Yes.
So, guys, thank you, by the way, all three of you, but especially 1L and Nick for being on the show this week. I've been having a great time getting with you guys and podcasting and talking about writing and geek stuff and everything else. And I like keeping you guys in the loop, and it's really helping my sanity with all this stuff. So thank you, gentlemen.
Well,
Thanks for having me.
thank you, sir, for
All
putting
right.
up with me multiple times in a week.
Well, this will be the last time this week.
No, it's not.
It's not. I know. It's tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a thing tomorrow. I know. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so thanks for tuning in to The Usual Podcast. If you have comments or questions, you can find us at theusualpodcast.com. Email us at theusualpodcast@gmail.com. And, of course, we're on all the social medias. Where's my list? Facebook. Where's my damn list? Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and all the rest. So you can reach out to me. I'm at Darth Pops on Twitter. Will Griggs is at I am Will Griggs. Will Ralston is
Will_Ralston on Twitter.
And any other social media stuff you want to give out?
Instagram, Will's Art Rules with 1L. It's WILSARTRULES.
And his art does rule, and he does actually know all the people he was talking about. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's great.
Don't forget to follow all my daily dose of Disneys across the social media at Daily Disney 1923.
Nick, what you got? Where can we find you?
Follow me on Twitter. I am at Bright Inks. Instagram. It's a weird one. I'm sorry. _Bright_Inks_.
And
Someone with 3 followers has Bright Inks, and I can't take it from him. So,
and this is where you plug your other show that you're a part of?
well, I was waiting for you to lead that into that. But you can also listen to me and Marshall talk about books, short stories, writing in general, and join our community for writers or anyone who just loves reading. You can find us on your podcatcher that you'd like: Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. Just look up Just Keep Writing, a podcast for writers by writers to keep you writing.
Nice. All right. And of course, you can support our show, patreon.com/usualpodcast or audibletrial.com/usualpodcast. I think I covered it all. Will, do you have anything else to say to the lovely folks since we're actually live on Twitch this week and I never mentioned in the beginning?
Well, God forbid, have a fun.
Yeah, have a fun. And we'll see you all next week.
Peace.
Thanks, boys. That was great.
Peace.
I really, really appreciate you. I have to stop all these things from recording, though, for a second.
You're like a mad scientist.
I do. You should see what I... Hold on. I'm going to show you what I see.
Oh, yeah, text us.
See if I get it all. So the on the ground or at my knee level is the mixer, which is recording, and then there's something on our faces recording. Zoom is recording, plus Twitch, plus everything else. Oh, we're still live on Twitch. I'm gonna turn that off. Bye, everyone.